There are multiple ways in which the pins can be used, and there are different ways in which we can create those pins. The first one I'm going to talk about is the single pin creation. It's the kind of pins that we create using the hotkey on our keyboards. If we use the default rotation and movement settings in Marvelous Designer, then pins can be located on the W key on the keyboard. If we are using the alternative one, when we need to press Q, W, or E to select between those tools, the pinning is now on the key P on the keyboard. And so the way it works is that we need to hold either one of those keys and simply click on our model. Those kind of pins can be used in different ways, and they are very quick to make. So one of the way is to create some kind of custom shape that we want to maintain, and just repeat. We need to hold on either W or P, and we simply click on the garment. Once I simulate, I can take those pins individually, and I can move them the way I want. Another way to use this method of pinning is to hold certain garments in their place, in their position, while we're doing some kind of modifications, some kind of general movements on those garments. So in this case, I want the cuffs of the sleeves to maintain their position while I'm dragging and trying to modify this elbow area where I want to have different kinds of folds, but I don't want the sleeve to go along with those movements that I'm making. And the last method is to use pins to create custom folds. So in case like this, where I don't want to have those long folds, I can simply create the pin, and as I click it, I can hold it so it starts moving immediately, and this way I can pretty much break the shape of the folds, and I can be very precise in the look and how they behave. To remove the pins, if we are using the default way of navigation in Marvelous, it's simply pressing the W key and clicking on the pin, and that removes it. Unfortunately, if we're using the alternative way of selecting rotate, selection, and movement gizmos, the holding P and clicking on the pin doesn't work. It simply doesn't do anything. So in such a case, we need to right click on the pin and then press delete selected pin. If there are multiple pins on one garment, we can right click on the garment, go into the pin, and press delete all pins on selected patterns. This will remove those pins from the garment. If we want to remove everything, if we don't want to have any pins on the garments anywhere, there's a very quick way of doing that. It's simply pressing Ctrl W on the keyboard, and this removes all the pins that we have on the model.
If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description.
Another way to create pins is to use the pin tool, which is located right here. If we click and hold, we can select either the lasso selection or box selection. And There is also another way to make the pins using this tool. Let's say I wanted to pin this strap. If I choose the box selection, as you can see, I can't really do this because there's a curvature on the strap, and I'm selecting the other one next to it. Of course, I can move it out of the way and select it that way, or I can use the lasso and I can be very precise with my movements and I can select it this way. But there's also a very quick way to do the same procedure on the whole garment, and what we need to do is we simply need to double click on one of the points of the geometry. When we do that, the whole garment selects, and the pins are created on every single point of the geometry. And the thing about this method though is that it doesn't really work from distance. As you can see, if I move my mouse over the model, nothing really gets highlighted. But once I get closer, as you can see, there's a blue dot appears every time I move my mouse over a vertex. It's definitely a great way of selecting these things, but you need to just be aware that we need to get close to the model for this method to work. Again, going back to this one of the straps, I can simply double click and I get the pin. Pinning can be very useful for creating specific shapes, specific designs of your clothing and your garments. To illustrate this, I'm going to pin those straps that I have on the tracksuit. I'll double click to create a pin. I'll double click here as well, and if I right click, I get to choose a few things. So those are exactly the same things as before. So we can either delete the selected pin, we can delete all pins, Control W, and we can deactivate the pin, so it doesn't remove it, but it simply destroys the force that those pins have on the garment. But those three options down below are quite interesting. The first one is attach pin to avatar. If I click that, the whole strap gets well, it kind of disappears inside of the garment, and if I remove the garment, this strap is lying exactly and precisely on the surface of the avatar. And so if I do the same thing here, if I click attach pin to avatar, or if I know that there are just a few pins and I want to have the same effect on all of those pins, I can simply right click and press attach all pins to avatar, and it will do exactly the same thing as before. So once we have that, we can simulate and see what kind of effect we're going to get. And to make it even more visible, I'm going to increase both weft and warp, and I'm going to increase the pressure as well. There's some artifacts. This is simply because the before I press the pin, the strap wasn't lying perfectly on the surface, so that's the reason why there's this stretching out happening. But if I remove those pins and if I freeze the straps instead, this could produce some interesting effects. This could be something that can play in our advantage if we want to have some kind of specific look when we want the surface, the garments, to be in very specific areas lying on top of the avatar, and Again, this is just this is a matter of imagination and designing, but it's a really handy and a nice little tool to have to simply create some kind of shapes using pins.